Welcome back to Cultivated Conversations. I'm your host, Jen Proctor. Now let me ask you this. When it comes to the entertainment industry, we know the faces, we know the talent, we know the headlines, we know the studios, but have you ever stopped to think about who's actually running the business side of things? The money, the deals, the long-term planning. Well, today's guest is one of the power players behind the curtain. Anna DerParseghian is the managing partner of PTD Business Management, aka the woman that Hollywood trusts with their bank accounts, business ventures, and the big decisions. I have the pleasure of having her as a friend, a mentor, and a strategic business partner in my own business. If you're in the mood for some epic advice, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Anna, welcome to Cultivated Conversations.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you here. I think I just want to start off by saying that this woman is amazing and inspiring and loyal, and since the moment I met you, I think we just were instantly connected. And you are just a complete and utter badass. You are a mom. You are this business tycoon, and you're just such an inspiration. I could ramble on and on and on, but let's take a second and introduce yourself and tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for having me. I was very excited, and I'm looking forward to today's little podcast here. Well, I'm a business manager, and I'm the managing partner at a CPA firm called PTD Business Management, and we handle financial, everything that has to do with the dollar sign for entertainment clients. It's not an easy task, but I've been doing it for, ever since I was 15. It was my part-time job. So I don't know, what are we at, 31 years, not to give up my age, but
So you just turned 21.
Yeah, I just turned 21, and it's been quite the ride. 6 whole years in the making. So this is all I know. I love it. I live by it. I encourage, more females to want to go into this sector. It's such a niche business that we're in that I think it's a blessing and a privilege, honestly, to do what I do every day.
When you were a little girl, did you want to go into something in this lane?
Honestly, no. I was going to be a doctor. That was my thing.
Okay.
And I was a bio major originally. When I even got my part-time job, I was like, I'm going to be a bio major. I got my phlebotomy license. I could draw blood from people. Okay. So, and then my part-time job was from high school. I picked this, back in the days prior to the internet. There was this thing called a career office. You go and you take your little slip, and I went for an interview for a filing clerk at a business management firm. I was like, what is this? Sounds cool. Okay. And it was the R&B era in the 90s. So a lot of musicians coming in and out, and, anybody from Naughty by Nature to Monica to Monifa to, Earth, Wind, and Fire, just name it. They were coming around,
Oh my gosh. The stories you could tell, I'm sure.
Yeah, Casey and JoJo. It was quite the time at the time. So by the time I was 18, I realized I was, it was
good at this.
Yeah, something was naturally evolving, and my boss at the time was like, "Why are you gonna go? What are you gonna do? 10 years, and you're gonna go to do residency and go into the medical, go into medical school, etc." He's like, "Why don't you just give this a shot, Anna?" I was like, fine. So here we are.
Okay, and then what happened from then to now?
Honestly, I was 20 years old. I never forget. I had one of my mentors call me and say, "Hey, there's a firm in the West Side that is looking for an account manager. I need a resume." And I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to leave this guy. He, gave me an opportunity. And mind you, I'm like 20 years old at this point.
Yeah.
And so she said, Anna, let me make it really easy for you. You have 24 hours and you have to get me your resume. I said, 24 hours? Are you serious? She's like, yeah, that's it. Okay, talk to you later. Bye. I was like, oh my God. So I scrambled literally overnight, came up with the resume, and I sent it in. And honestly, back then I met my current senior partner, John, and the rest is history. I started, and I think it was like this 5-year progression. In 5 years, I was able to run the entire department, and then at 30, I became a partner as I grew my business, and I started to sign clients on my own with my little self. And then at 35, I became managing partner of the firm, and I've been managing the firm for 11 years now. So it's been quite the run.
So tell us, like, what exactly, and I know you said anything with a dollar sign, right?
Yeah.
But what exactly does a business manager do? Because I mean, I know from personal experience, it's so much.
Yeah.
But give us the, give us the top lines, if you will.
Well, it's such a niche business, like I said. Outside of Nashville, New York, and LA, when you say business manager, they're like, what? What do you do?
Yeah.
What we do is basically from the very basics of just paying bills, making sure the bills are paid, making, for any talent, from their car registration to utility bills, et cetera, to all the way to working with the managers and agents in their negotiations of their deals. So making sure that if they're traveling international, do we, make sure that we bifurcate the contract to make sure there are more dollars left in the client's pocket versus leaving it on the table or giving it away to Uncle Sam. We handle multi-million-dollar home purchases, multi-million-dollar renovations, oversee construction projects. That's what I mean by that. And it's almost like a white glove service. Like there's nothing that we don't do for our clients that has a dollar sign in front of it. So,
well, and it's so intimate, right? I remember when I first, when we
Do you remember
decided,
the first call? Do you remember?
I remember the first call. I mean, we could talk about the first call.
That was actually a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember because our producer was asking me like, how did you meet her? And I said, well, I think I was a year or two into my business and things were going really well. And I was just doing it on my own, but it was getting to that point where it's like, I need some help here.
Yeah.
And I remember I went online and I was researching and I really wanted to have a woman to working with because I think, and we'll talk about this a little bit more too, but like we both are really passionate about lifting other women and supporting other women. And I mean, you've told me the story where I think I left a voicemail and your assistant, right, Alex, shout out to Alex, thank you, Alex, told you, hey, I think you might.
I had literally left a client's house in Bel Air. Like I literally had left we had this whole meeting. I got in the car and she called me. And normally, if I'm that close to the office, I was like, I'll just answer it. I picked up out of nowhere and she's like, listen, this woman called. Her name is Jennifer, and she's looking for a female business manager, and she had looked you up, and she is really excited to talk to you. For some ungodly reason, I mean, not that I wasn't going to call you back, but I was like, why don't you just get her on the phone right now? And I never forget, I pulled aside on top of the hill, and we literally just hit it off, and it was like the beginning to the end. So
I remember I was pacing in my backyard talking to you.
Normally you do the whole fancy thing like, oh, let's set a time, let's set an appointment, sure, invite them in, but it just kind of happened.
No,
so
it did.
Here we are.
It did, and here we are. And I mean, and it's been a wild few years, which we'll come back to. But I think, I mean, obviously we're both women in this industry, right? And that being one of the things that we really did connect on. I think like there aren't a lot of women that do what you do, and you even mentioned that in the beginning of this interview, right? I think anything with finance and taxes and business, it's like men, right?
I think in our business, I think that is the truly sad part is in the world of business management. I feel like old Hollywood was built around these, businessmen, and business management started with a bunch of older gentlemen. And, I'm hoping to see a bigger shift in this arena, but you still don't. There are very few and far in between. I think I'm probably one of the only female managing. I think I'm probably the only female managing partner in the city, but it's a rare find. And, my goal is to hopefully, encourage the females around me to want to reach for the stars and do what I do. And, hopefully replace me one day when I'm just, tired and want to
go travel the world.
Just something like that. But I think women are built for this type of a profession. But unfortunately, because of the environments that we've grown up in, this is just not a place where women have been allowed to go as far as I have gotten.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting too, right? Because there's that fine line of being a woman in a powerful position in any industry, but I think in the entertainment industry too, right? Of that softness combined with just right. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about, and maybe you don't even realize how you do that, right? But you do every day is this balancing act.
Yeah. And honestly, I think psychology plays, I passionately love the psychology of everything, just like human behavior in general, even when dealing with employees or partners or clients. In our business, the psychological part is really, really important because especially when and again, this is not about like, oh, us females, it's not about that. It's just understanding that as a female, your voice carries differently. So how do you walk into a room where people can gravitate towards you, where you are taken seriously, where you are looked at instead of the male that's next to you when you're having a business conversation and you have all the information. I've been in many, many rooms throughout the years where I've literally have had all the information and they continue to respond to my partner who's sitting next to me. But what you learn from that is to build tougher skin, to be able to adapt to your environment, to know that you do belong there and you have to make sure your voice is heard. But the challenges that females do have is something that everybody talks about, which is if you're too strong, you might be taken a certain way. A lot of times when your voice is carried in a certain tone, you intimidate businessmen in the room. So it's this constant back and forth of understanding your audience and making sure that you style flex according to who's in the room and what the purpose is and what the objective is. So it's a constant juggle. It never ever stops.
It is. Well, and I think too, I think we, at least I find myself sometimes sort of, second guessing all the time. And it's something that, I've come up in a certain way, right? So it's sort of like, almost like how they talk about generational trauma or so, you know what I mean? It's embedded. And I find myself in these rooms sometimes and, fighting for things that are no-brainers, that shouldn't be a fight, but yet I think the way that I'm being perceived or spoken to is like I have to put on the boxing gloves and like actually show them what I'm made of, whereas maybe a male wouldn't have to do that. So
no, and in our business, in particular in the business management world, everything is twice as difficult, if not 10 times. And it is very, very apparent, especially when you're at a partner level, when you're at an ownership level, the game is completely different. You just have to, I always say like it's a constant game of chess. And you have to be really, really good at it. And you have to be 2 steps ahead at all times. I love it. I thrive in it. It's like my favorite challenge. And I actually get a chuckle when I realize I am intimidating people because I just still look at myself as just this
I know exactly what
young
you mean.
girl. Like it's like, I have the information and we're having a discussion.
21.
But
You're
I
only 21,
am. So it's I get a kick out of it. It's a fun challenge for me. So, and I think as we get older, though, there's a difference when you're in your 20s, and then there's this there's a different person that comes out when you're in your 30s. And I think when you tip over in your 40s, you become so much more comfortable. Nothing matters. Like for me, the most important thing right now is to take care of my clients in the best way possible. If you're in the room and you're uncomfortable with me, that is your problem. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be direct. And if anything about that unsettles you, like I can't help you. Like as long as I can sleep at night knowing I did the right job for my client and I was professional and had my best foot forward in that meeting, then I'm sorry you feel uncomfortable.
But that's profound because that's a huge step and like an amazing place to be in, right? And I think one thing that I remind myself of all the time, and even my like friends, it's the best part. It's the best piece of advice because as long as you know that you are doing your absolute best and leading with kindness and being genuine, then like fuck what anyone else has to think. That's their thing.
Exactly.
But I do think that, obviously the last 10 years, 5 years, there have been shifts, from even like, to even 20 years ago when I was, an assistant on a the narrative has changed. I think the communication styles have changed. I think the behavior when you're on set or a lot of things have changed. Are there any, specific circumstances or things in your industry that you've seen shift in that way or?
Yes and no. I think it's just a combination of things. So we're not we're not the talent, right? So we're really behind the scenes people. So in my world, do I see more of the females wanting to get their licenses and wanting to, move forward? Yes and no. I think that women naturally still have the challenges of whether they want to be in the workforce or they want to be home. But the ones that want to be in the workforce, you do see making adjustments. my mission in life, and especially in our business, has always been to allow our female staff and employees to want to spread their wings. I always tell them, you want to become a partner, we'll take you there. You just have to show me that you have the hunger and the ambition and you want to take it there. So there are no limits. I will have to say in the last 10 to 15 years, if we were like just to like capture that moment in time, I wish I could have seen more and I would see more females progressing. I would say maybe a little bit more, but not as drastic as I would like to see.
And how about on the talent side, right? Because you see all these deals, like we both see all these deals that come through.
Yes, we do.
You know, have you seen a bit of a balancing act between what's coming in for X male actor and what's coming in? Yeah.
That I have loved witness, especially a couple of my really great female talents that I represent. That has been really, really amazing for me to witness, because all of a sudden we see the contracts come in for our male clients and then we see the females. And I have seen, especially in the last 10 years, the jump in the episodic rates, the jump in just a flat fee even for movies, whether it has to do with their writers, whether it has to do with their trailers, like to actually see that equalize the way it has been pretty amazing. And to a point where even, you know, like I've like sat back and I've told my clients, like I'm like blown away, because you can't help but be excited for them, because you're like, this is great.
And
like,
you know, and you don't have to fight as hard, right?
Yeah. And the fact that their voice is heard and they're able to make a move, and, you know, and they're incredible talents. It doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. If you are a talented actor in general, you should be paid accordingly. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Even 10 years ago, it was like, okay, there's music artists, there's actors in television and film, and, you know, and then there's athletes, right? And now it's like we have Instagram, we have TikTok, we have podcasts, we have, right? So I'd love your POV and just sharing, like, are all of these new kind of sectors of entertainment as lucrative or building to be as lucrative as some of the more traditional sectors of entertainment?
Yeah, and it's pretty baffling, actually, when you look at some of these deals and you're like, what was this person doing? And what do you mean? Oh, they started on YouTube? Oh, okay. Oh, they had a little bit of a blog, and oh, okay. And all of a sudden they're in these rooms with these incredible people and they're getting these deals cut where I'm talking about multi-million-dollar deals. Like literally, my partner and I were talking about one of his recent clients recently, like the hardworking individual, young female, which I'm so happy about. And it's a multi-million-dollar deal that, you know, it's like, you know, podcast and everything else kind of lumped into one. And you're like, how, what? Because the social media impact in our world has been massive, right? So a lot of people that didn't have platforms before have platforms now. So, and I honestly feel like if you're hungry and driven, the world is your oyster. So they're able to build things, they're making their voice be heard, and a lot of people like the voice that they're hearing. So all of a sudden a lot of doors are being open to these people, that whether they're influencers, whether they're podcasters, whatever it is, all of a sudden you're seeing deals where it's not like the actor that got the podcast, it's not the host that got this arrangement. So the platform's completely changed, the deals have changed. So we're constantly learning what all the new deals are and what all the back ends are and what a current deal looks like.
Yeah. And what would be your piece of advice to someone who is a YouTuber or does have a blog or, you know, is a creator or influencer and has a business, right, but doesn't have a business management team? Like, what would be some basic advice about, okay, here's what you need to make sure you do to get to that next place?
It's a combination of things. It depends on what you're doing. But I think for your basic YouTuber or somebody who wants to start a little bit of a podcast, first of all, you have to remember that you're going to fail 1,000 times. I think the biggest thing that people forget is that you're going to fail to get there. So a lot of these kids, I think, that are just getting started, will have the tendency to say, okay, well, this didn't work, so maybe I'm going to go back to what I was doing. So I think what you have to remember is that persistency and determination is everything. So you have to stay constant. So whatever it is, as long as it's something that you're truly passionate about, continue and stick to the plan. Because whether it's, you know, buddying up with somebody who's, you know, if you're really good talent and you're creative, find a friend who's a geek who knows the algorithms in the background of the YouTube that can potentially figure out how you can monetize on the back end and how you can do all these cool cool little tricks, You just have to be savvy and resourceful. So if you have a couple of those cool friends, pull them in. You know what I mean? And maybe you can negotiate at a very minor level and say, listen, when I make it big, we can make an arrangement and have a side deal of, what you might compensate them with, etc. But the one thing the advice that I will give, though, for people who are immensely talented and who are about to just break ground, make sure you're not taken advantage of. Just remember that your creative work is your own. And sometimes we are in an environment and surrounded by a lot of people that might come in and take advantage of you. So make sure whether it's a form online through LegalZoom.com, whatever it is, just make sure you protect yourself as you get into these little very basic elementary level negotiations with whether it's friends, whether it's family, whatever it is. Just try to protect yourself and your creative
That's
genius.
Really good advice. It's really good advice. Yeah, because I think you don't know, right? And you just start kind of trying to figure it out as you go, and then fast forward 2 years or 5 years, and something you didn't do or didn't do properly has now wiped you out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear horror stories, you can watch them on Netflix. There's many of them. So.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about relationships, because I think, number one, both of our businesses are similar in that way, where it's like it's all relationship. I think yours in a much more intimate way, right? People, where the skeletons are.
All of them.
And there's something about your finances, right, that is more intimate than even standing in a room naked, right? Because it is. It's all the mistakes you've made, all the wild purchases you've done, all the bad investment, right? I would love your advice, or just to hear a little bit about, how do you build those relationships and build that trust with clients?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the nose with just trust.
Yeah.
How do you build trust?
Yeah.
And I always say trust is built over time. So most of the time, like let's say if I get into a new relationship with a client, I don't try to oversell. I don't try to, for me, it's more about being silent and more quiet and understand everything about them. Because I need them to build trust with me. So the way I look at it is just like when our relationship started. I need to have you feel that trust and build that trust naturally. I never want to force it upon anybody, because that's where, like, I think the true magic lies, is naturally just building, and through the quality of your work and your deliverables and making sure you meet the objectives and the goals of your client helps you start building that trust. Because you have to remember something. We have an intimate relationship with our clients because money is a very sensitive thing for people.
It is.
And so a lot of people, depending on their upbringing, have a very different relationship with money.
A money story.
So, yes. So oftentimes when we sign a client, one of the things I like to do is understand their family history, how they came into what they do. Were they a child star? Were they not? Did these things happen overnight? And I start asking questions just to understand their behavior with money. And are they savers? Do they like to blow through their money? Like all these questions, because I start to understand their insecurities and securities around money. Yeah. And the more you understand your client, the more they also feel like they're being seen and heard. Yeah. And I think that is the biggest thing of all. Again, everything goes back to psychology. That's why I love it all.
I was just
but
about
it's
to
like
say,
it's very important, because for me, I want my clients and a lot of my clients have been with me 10 plus years. Many of them. I have a couple, 20 plus year relationships. So it's really, really important for me for that to be a slow, progressive process, not an overnight, oh my God, you must trust me because don't you know who I am? It doesn't we're nobody at the end of the day. And I always, it's funny that I always tell my partners, and I always tell our staff, like, when I walk into the office every day, I know it could be wiped away the next day. Like, nothing's guaranteed. So I'm very, very grateful for each and every day. And that's why I try to take care of my clients in that same way, in a very delicate fashion, because they work so hard for their money. And we have a job to make sure we preserve it and hopefully build wealth.
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of what you said, that psychology too, I think it relates to how we negotiate, that building of trust, that kind of putting yourself in someone else's shoes and understanding their POV, right?
And you can't force, this is how you should, it's not, that's not the case, because our beliefs get parked in the door. What they look forward to us is to share our ideas, to share our personal stories. And sometimes they'll say, what is your opinion? Because who would not want to have a professional that has an opinion, right? Everybody should have their opinion. But at the end of the day, what is the right answer direction for that client.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ultimately why they have you,
Yep.
or why they pay the big bucks, as we say, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, it's reading the room, right? Which is something that I feel like I'm doing all day, every day,
Yeah,
right?
we have to.
Yeah, you get into some conversations and they want to joke around, and another one, they want to get straight down to business, and it's so much about reading people, and that's so much of what we do.
It's the fun of it all.
It
I
is.
think, I always tell people,
love
like,
it, and you love it.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, if I was doing just basic accounting in a room, like, you would not find me anywhere near this profession.
Yeah.
I think the reason I've thrived and I've survived for so long is because of the relationship aspect of it. I love building relationship. I love longevity. Like, relationships are really, really important to me. So.
Okay, so I want to play like a little rapid fire.
Sure.
With words around finances and jobs and contracts that get thrown around a lot. So give us your layman's terms.
Okay.
Okay. Write-offs.
That's hilarious. Write-offs. I think a lot of people have a tendency to use that word very loosely all the time. It's a write-off.
It's a write-off.
Not everything is a write-off,
Yeah.
and we always have to get into. So write-offs are basically deductions based on the field of your profession that the IRS will allow you to take as a deduction. So if you have earned $100, and if you have a $30 expense, which you can have be written off, that is what that expense is. I think it's just such a loose term that's used that everybody's like, write it off. Well, what do you who's
writing it off for
and
you?
And second of all, my favorite thing in this that people forget, though, I always educate the clients also. Cash going out is still cash going out, right? Ultimately, you see what that net benefit is of having that business expense. But at the end of the day, whether it's $30, $10, $15, there's still a net incremental difference that is coming out of your own pocket. Yeah.
Okay, back end.
So back end mainly for talent or producers or directors, etc. This is a piece of the pie that you get to potentially share when you are producing a film, a television series, etc. So you might have like this, let's say you're a talent and you have written this amazing script and you go out there and you're, a studio loved it and they're buying it, and all of a sudden you're going to be acting in it and you're going to help produce it and you're like this multi-hyphenate, right? What you might do is, if you believe in your story so much and you do believe this is going to be the next best series on Netflix, what you might do is you might say, you know what, instead of giving me $100,000 an episode, why don't you guys just pay me $10,000 an episode, and I want a bigger back end. So it's literally you're participating in the profits at the end. So if the show is a success, you get a taste of what that success is, if I'm explaining it.
And can end up being a lot more money in your pocket. And that's kind of what they refer to as mailbox money.
Exactly.
Right,
and you find that a lot with A-listers and a lot of people that already have established footprint in the city. So majority of the time we might actually have very small upfronts because we already know that we've already earmarked all the back ends for them. So then it just, once you have a hit show, the money just doesn't stop.
Love it. Okay, equity.
Equity is most commonly used for ownership stake in investments that you might make. A piece of ownership stake you have in something. So somebody brings you an investment and says, oh my God, this is the next Google. And, as a friend, I'm going to let it, people invest for up to like $10,000, and you're like, sure, I'm in, I'll go in at the beginning. And so you will have an equity share depending, here are all my disclaimers from a business manager's perspective. I don't know what your deal looks like, but in general, that $10,000 is going to give you some sort of an equity stake within that company, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, commission.
Commission, everybody's favorite word. This is a fee. Most of the time it's a percentage fee. Sometimes there are retainer arrangements based on what a client earns. So if you have a talent that's making $10,000 a month or $10,000 an episode, you have an attorney that typically will charge 5% of that gross dollar. You have an agent that charges typically 10% of that income. And then you have us business managers who will also charge 5% of that gross dollars. So what you realize is that as a talent, at the beginning, it's very hard. When talent starts in the industry, commissions is a very rough bump to get through, because all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I had $100. 30% of it went all to commissions for all the people that got me this job. And then Uncle Sam took everything. And then Our rule of thumb always to our talents is you get to keep 30 cents on the dollar in your pocket. I know it's painful to hear, but that's the rule of thumb, right? Yeah. That's literally the breakdown of what the commission world is all about. So we always encourage them, the way I educate them at least, to help them get over that hump is you have all these people around you, and without those people finding those jobs and creating that pathway for you, you would not be doing what you're doing. So, you know, and then obviously there are talent. When you become an A-lister, sometimes you just have an attorney. Sometimes you just have an agent and an attorney. No need for a manager. It just depends. And you know, our world has been shifting drastically. So we'll see where we're headed. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds.
Well, that's a great segue into that, right?
They still need business managers, though, for the most part. So there you go.
You are bulletproof.
Just saying.
Right?
Just
saying. Probably even more so.
Yeah.
Even more so.
Yeah.
My business, since I had started, was almost doubling every year, right? I mean, just booming and booming and booming and booming. And then just in the flick of a switch in 2023 with the strikes, I mean, it was like not just the rug was ripped out from under me, and the entire fucking house was pulled out around me, right? And it's still a rough go, right? I mean, we're still climbing ourselves out, you know, out of the hole, if you will, right? And I think that was something that was so out of my control. That was the hardest part. Yeah, that was a rough there was nothing that I could do, right? It was this industry thing. So, I mean, I would love thank you for that. You know,
Are you kidding?
Just thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Like, you know, that was, I could not.
We survived through it, so there.
We did. And every time I talk to anyone on your I mean, it's just like, I will forever be, you know, indebted and grateful. Because, it was brutal. A lot of nights. And I've never cried so much in my life. I've never felt so much just uncertainty, you know. I've always been certain of everything, and even when I wasn't, right? It's like I always knew that I could do anything. And I think that was the first time in my.
We love to be in control. And
100%.
when you lose control over something, it truly was out of your control. You had all the contacts, you had all the resources, you had everything ready to go, but you couldn't make a move.
I couldn't.
And that was, you know.
And that was hard. Yeah. COVID, at least, you know, I mean, for my business specifically, in the beginning was very much like that, but then actually ultimately ended up being some of my best years ever, because you're sitting behind our computer and you can do 50 times the amount of work because you're not driving all around town.
Exactly.
But I think what would be, you know, entertainment industry or just at large, right? What would be some advice to better prepare for if shit hits the fan?
Something globally that I think helps everybody, whether you're rich, poor, somewhere between, it really doesn't matter. I think mental strength is such a significant factor in knowing that, to be very well aware, you could have spiraled out of control. You could have spiraled out of control. Oh my God, the world is over. Let's shut down Cultivated. Forget this is, you know. But it takes a certain mental strength, right? Yes, you do cry. We all cry. I mean, everybody knows we cry.
But that's the
thing.
There's
nothing
cry.
to hide.
I think
we
it was
never
quite
do.
Healthy,
but yeah, exactly.
You know?
It's actually quite a cathartic thing.
20 years.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I was like, let it out, Jen. Just let it out. It's okay. But one of those things I would always tell people is you never know what's ahead. So it's always good to build yourself up mentally, to know that not every day is going to be
butterflies and rainbows.
I constantly strategize mentally. Like, so if I have partner meetings or I'm having staff meetings, I'm constantly thinking of, that chess game that I always tell you about. Like, I love to strategize. Like, what if this happens? What would I do? What if this happens? What would I do? So I constantly have backup plans in my head. So when the strike hits, I already have a backup plan ready to deploy for the firm. And I'm not as anxious and as excited in a bad way. If things are going well with you, fantastic. Always have a backup plan just in case anything goes sideways. Because I think what it does is it prevents you potentially from losing it all. To be able to have that mental strength, to be able to sit back and say, I thought about this though. And I don't necessarily need to lose everything. I just need to steer the ship. And we did a lot of talking, you know, during that time. It's like, no, let's try this. No, let's give it a couple of more weeks. It's okay. And it's not about one of those like wishful thinking, like, oh, I'm going to win the lottery, everything's going to be okay. It's not that. It's just making smart moves, making smart decisions, and getting yourself out of situations. But building a strong mental system for yourself, it takes a while. And it takes, like I said at the beginning of our conversation, is it takes a lot of failures. So it's okay to fail. It's okay to lose certain things. But I think you get to a point where when you mentally constantly talk to yourself. I talk to myself all the time.
You do?
Sure you do.
You do?
All the time.
Yeah.
I have discussions from the moment I wake
really?
up. So until I sleep. there's a lot that goes on in his
Yeah.
head. So, but it's just one of those things that I always encourage people to have the conversations with themselves, to have their worst case scenarios kind of mapped out, so that you don't have the, oh shit, the world is over, like I'm screwed moment.
Yeah.
We're going to have those. I'm going to say those words. You're going to have those words. But it's a lot better when you've already mentally prepared yourself for this might happen, that might happen, this might happen.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people, like, yes, you're enjoying the good times. Like, always plan for a worst case scenario. You never know when you're going to need it.
Yeah. Well, and I think and on that note is from those failures, right, and from those worst times, I think, and from that mental strength comes resilience.
Oh my God, yes.
You know, and I think, you know, I mean, again, we're still not out of the woods, and the industry is still a very scary place.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, I'm always a glass half full, and I know you are too. And I think that's sort of my POV just my whole life anyways, is you can get through anything, and once you get to the other side, you look back, and yes, it feels terrible when you're in it.
Yes.
Like it feels like the world is ending.
Yes.
But yeah, on the other side, you're like, oh shit, like I understand why that happened, and this is what I learned, and this was my takeaway.
And you become so much stronger, and I think there's this
Totally.
huge self-reflection that happens, and you look back, you're like, damn, I survived, and this is great. What a great feeling. And I honestly feel like every day you'll walk into the office with your head a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And I feel like you then exude just this confidence and positivity that you're able to spread amongst everybody else. You know, I start every morning with blasting the music in the office just to annoy people.
I love that.
It puts me in a good mood. So, but everybody knows it. And the joke in the office is that I'm usually the first partner that's in, and I'm in my little unicorner, as they call it.
Unicorn?
Yeah.
I love it.
So I'm
gonna send you a stuffed unicorn to put in that corner.
Jen, that's gonna be funny. So I get in, and literally they all make fun of me. I have this massive speaker next to me, and I just like start blasting the entire floor. Even I think the attorneys across the hall, like the entire floor can hear the music. Just depends on my mood, whatever I'm into. Yesterday was all oldies, but whatever I'm into. And as my partners come in, like after each one, I start like the decibels start going a little less,
Lower,
a little
lower,
less, a
lower,
little
lower,
less, because
lower.
you know they have to have conversations and stuff. But it's you know, I feel like anything you can do to just change the atmosphere and put people in a good.
Yeah, the industry needs people like that, right? I think they're, you know, I mean, I probably do 10, 20 sort of, you know, as I'm sure you do, sort of, you know, just random catch-ups, schmooze calls, right?
God,
Meetings a week, right?
Yep.
And
Easily.
I've never seen, even in the strikes, I don't think I saw it, like kind of what it feels like right now. I think freelancers are just, you know, there's no work. And then people who have these steady jobs at these big companies, I mean, there's layoffs happening everywhere. So, I mean, as someone who sees the dollar signs and understands the economy and the business of it, I mean, what would your, like, do you have any predictions? Do you have advice for, like, how are we going to get through this?
You know, we always say nobody has a crystal ball. So it's going to be interesting what happens in our industry. I think what we're going to see is a lot more mergers and acquisitions, whether it's the studios, whether it's, we've seen what's happening with management companies, business management companies,
PR
agencies,
firms,
PR firms. So I think as we progress into the future, whether we like it or not, you know, there's going to be the 5 elite agencies or 5 elite management companies, 5 studios, or I think like you're going to see the numbers shrink, and you're just going to have these moguls that are kind of like take space
Almost
in
like
our
how
arena.
it used to be.
Yes, I actually think it's reverting in a weird way. If you kind of pull back and you kind of analyze and see what's happening, I think that Hollywood grew, and everybody, like, it was just these
Started
massive
their own company.
Yes,
and
it's like it just spread, and now it's like everybody's like, okay, and everybody's kind of like pulling back. That's why you see everybody so restless and worried, because production deals are not getting greenlit like they used to be. You know, all these like things, right, that are not shifting the way they used to. But I do believe that give it a couple of more years, I almost feel like it is going to go back to that. Like you're going to have this 1 or 2 agencies, you're going to have 1 or 2 big law firms. I feel like there's just going to be a couple of really big staple places that exist, and I think the deals are probably, we saw what happened with music deals over the time. We saw what happened with talent deals over the time, production deals. And I think that all of that is also going to get streamlined to where it's not there as a universal deal, because I think each talent still is different and has a lot of different tentacles that you have to address. But I do feel like that there is a streamline of sorts that comes down the pike eventually.
Yeah, I mean that
think.
makes sense. Yeah. I keep referring to it as the pendulum.
Yeah.
I'm like the pendulum swung way over here, and it's just like slowly kind of like making its way back to.
And we're all on it. We're all on it, and
riding
we're feeling it all.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's again, I think it's building resilience and thinking differently, trying different things. Taking that job or that gig that you wouldn't have even looked at a year or two ago, right? Because it's the fee that's being offered is below you, but at the same time, it's like, hey, one big number or 3 or 4 little numbers stack up to the same amount, and you're working harder for less money. But it's like, if we can get through this and bust our asses and prove ourselves, like we will reap the benefits down the road. I do believe that.
100%. I think the hungry ones will stay standing. Like I said, you just have to stay persistent and hungry, and there's still a lot of work in the city. That's the other part of it all. There's still so much work in the city. There's so many amazing projects, and Hollywood in its collective form is so far from being over, but it's just a matter of what do the deals look like, how many studios survive, and who goes away and who stays. I think it's the business element of it all, and unfortunately the talent is the one on the pendulum going along with all the corporate heads as things move around. So it'll be interesting. So not dwelling on the past. I think that's been one of my biggest learning points that I always tell people. Like, don't wait for people to save you. Let your work speak for itself. Let your personality and your kindness speak for itself. Like, be that difference. You know what I mean? That's like my mission all the time, is that I always want to encourage people to shine and reach for the stars, and just don't wait for anybody to save you. Just go out and do it. If you want to dream, go out there, do it, aspire, reach for the stars, and hopefully you have some incredible people around you that can help you take it to the next level.
What are your dreams, and what are you reaching for the stars on? Like, what are those? I mean, that was the most profound piece of advice, right? But I mean, here obviously you're so far along in your career, but yet you have so many years ahead of you.
My ultimate dream, and I've been working really, really hard at this for a long time, and my partners know this as well. My vision has always been, in our industry in particular, let's just specifically talk about business managers in the city. We're very few and far in between. There's, I would say, a good solid 5 now, or maybe 7 in the city, and we're one of them. But I would say my biggest challenge for myself, and what I look forward to, because I know it's coming, because it's practically here, is I always said I wanted to be that boutique firm that people could not get into. And we are getting there, because we have not entertained any merger conversations. We've had people knock on the door. I always say you meet new people because it's fun, and why not?
Always take the meeting.
Exactly. You know the rule of thumb. Always take a meeting, never say no. But at the same time, we've built something so special and so unique. Our work product is on another level, and I just refuse to, merge with a company where I have to nurture them, and I have to lead them, and I have to mentor them. We have something so beautiful. We have 50 plus employees. We have such an amazing round of clients. I want to keep it very boutique-y. I want to be the only boutique entertainment-based CPA firm in the city that everybody wants to be a part of.
Yes, I love that.
Just sounds good.
It does.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I love that.
So there.
And you touched on something earlier. You said, you always have to show up, and you're exhausted. You got to put the smile on your face. And when you said, it's just, I resonated with that so much. And I think a lot of people listening can resonate with that. I think especially moms, like we are, right? Because we work long ass hours and pour all our energy into.
You're juggling 20,000 things at the same time. And
and you do it so flawlessly, right? And how do you give yourself that grace to be a great mom and a great business leader?
Yeah. Gosh, it always has its challenges, right? But one, I'm hoping that at the end of the day, regardless of what I've done, I've set a really good example for my kids. I literally never forget, after I had my son, I was back in the office, and I kid you not, it was 6 weeks, and I became a partner shortly thereafter, and the rest was history, because for me, it was like an adrenaline rush. It was like a challenge I had with myself, not to prove to anybody else.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I got this, and I'm going to be even more powerful. So I tell people all the time, like, find time for yourself. But one of the things for moms, a very strong advice that I have is to get over the guilt that you're not being a good mom.
Totally.
I think that the hours that we work, the hours that I work, like anytime you text me, night, weekends, whatever, you don't even know how, but I'll answer because I do.
Yeah.
And there comes a point in your life where, where I had to do a lot of my own conversations that I have with myself morning to night. And a lot of it is that I'm doing everything for them, and first and foremost, be happy about what you do and be passionate about what you do. So I think that's the first thing, right? Because if you hate what you're doing, then double, triple the effects of how it's going to really have a negative impact in your life. But I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. So when I'm away from my kids, and I travel a lot, I'm pretty much bi-coastal. I'm all over the place. You have to figure out what works for you, and you have to drop the guilt at the door. I don't feel guilty anymore. I love what I do. If my kids want an explanation, I'm going to tell them exactly what they're doing. They know how to find me. They know exactly where mom is. And as a matter of fact, I start talking about my business so that they're more educated and they're more ahead of the curve. And I think that brings more excitement into the whole dynamic with them and your relationship with your kids. And so the number one thing I would say, if I were to isolate everything for all moms, is to park the guilt at the door. Because if you think, and never let anybody also tell you that you're less of a mom because you're not as present. I am very present in my kids' life.
Or less of a businesswoman because you're a mom.
Exactly. And there was a huge point in my life, I remember, where as I was growing up in my 30s, where I'd be like, maybe I shouldn't talk about the kids at work because then I'm going to look like I'm missing them. And these are real conversations women have in their heads. It's like, if I talk, they're going to be like, oh my God, here she goes talking about their kids again, this and that.
And I think one of the things that I've done, because I agree. I think I mean, similar to you, it's like I'm everywhere all the time. And you can't do the guilt thing. There's absolutely
It'll
no
kill you.
point.
It'll kill you.
But the other thing that I kind of changed my POV is, when it comes to the kids, focus on today and focus on the now and focus on being present, right?
Because they are. They're not 10 days ahead like you.
No, they're not. Yeah. And to them, just sitting next to you and you rubbing their back, that is all they want is that time, right? And as they get older, obviously it changes because mine are young. But that's been my changes. Okay, you know what? Today, I am doing this. Today I'm a little bit of a better mom than I was yesterday. Or I spent a little more time and just being okay with that.
And listen, certain days you're going to do more, certain days you're going to do that. You and I have done this. Sometimes we have 16-hour days and sometimes we're home at 4 o'clock. We're like, we don't know how it happened, but here we are. And so, but that's okay.
It is okay.
You're a businesswoman. You're running your own business. It's okay to have those moments. You don't have to be perfect all the time.
I always like to ask the guests on the show something that brings you joy.
For me, honestly, it's just gratitude and just like the simple things in life I don't lose sight of, you know, even silly things like when you and I are back and forth in the East Coast, I don't take any of that for granted. Right now my happiness is finding the joy in all those little things and just being present.
Well, thank you so much for joining me
fun.
Today. This was amazing.
I was really nervous.
Incredible.
I don't do these things, but this was exciting.
No, you
Thanks
absolutely
for having
killed it.
me.
I mean, the words of wisdom that have been pouring out of you, it's amazing. Truly.
Watching your business grow in front of my eyes has been such an immense joy. And then on top of that, you're the kindest human being on the planet. Oh. And I'm so grateful to have you in my life. And I know we're going to be together for a couple of decades. Yeah.
Where can we find you? Where should everyone socials, or do you want to plug the PTD socials?
PTDLLP.com.
You're amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And that's a wrap on another episode of Cultivated Conversations. Please check us out on social at Cultivated Entertainment on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. I'm Jen Proctor on LinkedIn and all the things, and I want to hear from you. Send me your questions and your feedback. Our email is hello@cultivatedent.com. And until next time,